Hello everybody. Hello indeed. I am basically just still setting up, but I've got the time set up, so I might as well just confirm, because I'm such a nice guy. Hang on, what the fuck? Before you get started, can I just say something? Thank you for actually setting the clock both times you booted up the game. A lot of people don't take that step seriously. They just leave the clock at 12 o'clock and call it a day. But you're actually taking the time to set the clock, and I appreciate that. That's how I know that you care about this experience. You're paying attention. I don't even have any way of knowing if the times you are setting are correct. Tell you what, I'll make you a deal. Since you've been so cooperative, next time you boot up the game and see the screen, just set the clock to your favourite time. Go ahead, pick whatever time you want, even if it's not the correct time. You've earned it. Alright, I'll let you get back to the video game now. Okay. Let me just put it on Instagram that I need to turn that alarm off so I don't get jump scared. Off, and then YouTube on the phone. I do apologise for the background noise. I've got a fan on and it's just keeping me nice and cool. It's actually very nice, so I don't care for the sound right now, so you'll live, you'll be alright. Shush! I don't want to hear my voice. Are you good? Okay, right. So announce it on Instagram. I need to change my subscriber goal. That's really annoying. Because I was at 205 and then, it is what it is. We'll live. Right, let's just get into the game. I don't know what is happening. Wires are crossing over wires and I don't like it.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him.
Yeah, right. We've been through that plenty of times, as is.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Standards.
Stanley picked up the bucket.
Bucket.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
I did, indeed. Stanley did. Oh, shit.
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers.
Oh. Where's the jump circle, man? I didn't use all my jumps. Yes.
Oh, Stanley, Can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants the bucket. You can feel that, can't you?
No, it's my
the
bucket.
aura of jealousy. It's
My
as clear
bucket.
as day. This broom closet believes it deserves the
Oh,
bucket.
it's my bucket.
I can really feel
What?
it now. It's a bucket. It belongs in a broom closet.
Okay.
That's what the broom closet is trying to say here. It's supposed to go with the other cleaning supplies. Good for you, Stanley. Don't give in.
I won't.
Don't hand over the bucket.
No.
I know how hard it must be, given the pressure that the broom closet is putting on your shoulders right now, but you
It's
have
my
to be
bucket.
strong. This is your bucket. This is your companion
bucket,
and
my
lifelong friend. You can't hand it over. Oh, no. We're getting into name-calling now, it seems. Is this how low the broom closet has sunk,
what are
that
you
it has to
calling me?
resort to this stream of petty insults simply in order to get you to hand over the bucket?
It's my bucket.
Stanley, I never liked this broom closet for a variety
you
of
don't.
reasons, but even this is worse than I had imagined.
It's so rude.
And wait, now the broom closet has the gall to imply that you and the bucket are not truly deep and
Oh.
lasting friends?
Oh, you want to
That
go?
your relationship is purely
Oh.
superficial and convenient?
Oh.
That your life is so banal and meaningless that you'd
Mate,
feel the same sort of kinship
this
towards
broom
any
closet's
inanimate
asking
object
for-
which happened to lay in your path in an even partially enticing manner? Well, I'd never. Go on, Stanley. Lay into it. Really tell the broom closet off for its demeaning comments. Expand on the wide variety of
Shut up
experiences
and let me-
you and the bucket have shared together.
Shut the fuck
Go
up.
through
This is my
each of
bucket,
them
my
point
bucket,
by
my
point.
friend.
Share your journal entries detailing the rich emotional landscape of your feelings for the bucket
No.
as they have changed and evolved over the years. Let him have it.
You're a fucking little piece of shit. Leave my bucket alone. It's my bucket. You're a fucking bitch. It's my bucket. You're not having my bucket.
Okay, I've got you something which I think will help settle this debate once
you got
and
me a
for all.
present?
Here we go. There. Now it's settled. No more debate, no more discussion. Take a hike, broom closet, with all your meandering philosophical diatribes about the nature of cleaning supplies and their relationship to broom closets in the natural order of things.
Thank you. Thank you, narrator. Oh. I'm not gonna
All right, I've got a second sticker back here, and I'm going to slap it on as well because I think it's appropriate. You see? I
Okay,
feel that it
stickers.
works because the sticker is also a bucket. That way, if you're ever unsure whether the thing you're holding is a bucket or not, you can look down at this sticker and say to yourself,
It's a bucket.
"Ah, it's a bucket." There really is a wide variety of applications for this sticker.
This bucket. Am I gonna get any more? Can I get some more? Narrator.
You know what? I could take the name-calling and the dismissal of your kinship with the bucket, but now the broom closet is just giving us the silent treatment. And to be honest, I'm sick of the pettiness on display.
So rude.
You can stay here all you like, but I've had it with this impetulant room of cleaning supplies. Easily the most childish such room I've ever been in. I'll see you outside, and we
Okay.
can get on with the story about you and your bucket.
Yeah, fuck you, broom closet. My bucket.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
No.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk?
Come on,
Only because
bucket.
he believed everyone had vanished? His
Nope.
boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. He looked down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked the bucket. The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all. That's strange, Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult times such as these. He held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal, everyday
What have
bucket.
you done?
Someone else's bucket, perhaps.
Why
How
have you
did
put
I
my-
end up with
why
someone
you
else's bucket? This is all
stickers on
terribly
someone else's
wrong.
bucket?
Surely no good would
Where's my
come from
bucket?
this. Who knows what sorts of bizarre hallucinations Stanley
my
might
bucket?
experience without the psychologically grounding presence of his bucket. You see?
Oh no.
Now he noticed that the rooms were empty, which was, of
Where's
course,
my
very
bucket?
odd. Now he felt himself floating off the ground.
Oh fuck.
Oh, gracious, he exclaimed. Without my
Jesus
bucket, I've
Christ.
gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to him.
Stanley! Stanley, it's
coming.
me! The bucket!
I'm coming,
Could
bucket.
it truly be? He rushed forward from room to room, passing by one bucket after the next. None of them were his. None of them were his special bucket.
Where's my bucket?
Come to me, Stanley! Find me!
I'm going.
He had to find the bucket. He had to return to his old friend. It was the only way to truly restore his sanity. And then suddenly, he froze dead in his tracks. He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from. The real bucket was inside of him all along.
Oh shit.
It was incredibly painful.
Oh, what the fuck?
Stanley doubled over in agony and blacked out.
Oh shit. This bucket was inside me? That's fucking weird.
This is the story of a
Of a name.
woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, picked up her bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Right away, she knew what the problem was.
Of course.
This man had no bucket. Of course he'd gone mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd
I
taken
did
his
take my bucket with me. I took it into the
Perhaps he
broom
didn't
closet
even
and got
realize
stickers.
He'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place.
I didn't.
How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought.
My
And she
bucket.
hugged her own
They had
bucket
stickers
even
we were in the
tighter.
broom closet.
But of course, she had no time for this. There were a myriad of confusing problems she would soon have to confront at work, for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself, my life kicks ass. And
Brilliant.
she backflipped all the way to work.
Back? What the fuck? Okay. Into gymnastics. I mean, fair enough if you are. I wonder if my bucket says no stickers on.
All of his co-workers were gone.
What?
What could it mean?
Wait, my bucket
Stanley
in the other
decided to
room?
go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Still got my stickers.
Stanley lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of comfort rushed over him.
Still got my bucket. My bucket's my friend.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Yes, I did.
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find her. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. You found one of them. One of the miniature Stanley figurines. Remember, no reward for collecting all of these, only the intrinsic pleasure of a job well done.
But I
You
want a
can't buy
reward.
that sort of happiness, Stanley.
like
God
a
knows I've
reward.
tried. So, I implore you to savor each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful figurines.
Okay, Mr. Narasha. Let's go back upstairs. Oh, back upstairs. And the toilet. Oh,
Another miniature Stanley figurine. This, you know, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini
Mini
Stans?
Stans.
Stanley figs? What about Stanlerines? Yes, I think I
Stanlerines.
like that.
Nice.
Another Stanlerine
get
under
some
your belt.
Stanlerines. You know, love some Stanlerines. Dun, 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 dun. Come on, let's go in with the bucket. Lovely. Just gonna have a Alright, going into Big Boss.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck.
Yeah.
Was it that the bucket knew all along?
Yes.
Was the bucket guiding him? Yes. This is certainly the most logical explanation.
I wonder if, because in the first
The
stream,
elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine.
I wonder if he'll say anything.
Wait, Stanley said to the bucket. Can we go back up? When I was pressing those keypad buttons, there was something very intriguing about the number 3. I want to go back so I can try pressing the number 3 again.
Okay.
The bucket said nothing.
The number 3. I mean, you can press number 3.
Here we are, said Stanley. Now I'm going to try out that number 3 button. He took the bucket over to the keypad and began absolutely slamming on the number 3 over and over and... Wow, he said. The number 3 is such a special button. I'm having the time of my life. Stanley looked expectantly at the bucket, but the bucket remained silent. This was a shock to Stanley, who had always felt such a connection with the bucket. How was this not as exciting to the bucket as it was to him? Once Stanley had had enough of the number 3, he got back in the elevator.
Fine.
Perhaps the bucket had missed something. Perhaps it had not seen how much joy Stanley got from slamming the number 3 repeatedly.
Clearly. I love the number 3. For 3...
A hint of
It's a
regret
magic
nagged in the
number.
back of Stanley's mind. Should he demonstrate the number 3 for the bucket again?
Yes!
No, said Stanley to the bucket. You can't go on yet. Not till you understand how much the number 3 means to me. You and I have been through so much together, and I just want you to see what I see. Feel the happiness I feel. He smiled at the bucket, and the bucket said nothing.
Wow. So rude, bucket.
Here we go, said Stanley. This time I'll really show you. He ran to the number 3 and began to wail on it like a musician on a beloved instrument, weaving a concerto of truth and passion. He wielded the number 3 like a fine artist would wield a paintbrush.
Oh, you know.
He told stories through the number 3, stories of his dreams and hopes and fears. And the whole time, he looked to his bucket for a reaction of some kind. Anything to let him know that the bucket appreciated what he was
Come on,
doing.
bucket.
The bucket conveyed absolutely nothing at all, only silence. Crushed by a wave of dejection, Stanley returned to the elevator.
Bucket, why are you being so mean?
Stanley and the bucket were so close. They'd always been there for one another. Why suddenly could the bucket not connect with this passion of Stanley's? The question caused Stanley to ruminate the whole way down the elevator. He knew that there must be a way to get through to the bucket, to communicate fully with his dear friend. Surely there was a solution, mustn't there be?
I hope so. I just want the bucket to understand. Oh, is it? Okay, so I think maybe that's done.
Ah, said Stanley. I know what to do. I know how to fully express this feeling in my heart. He decided right then and there that he would hold a press conference where he would speak to the public on all matters relating to pressing the number 3 over and over. He would elaborate fully on what the number 3 meant to him and why he felt so alive when pressing it.
Of course.
Then the bucket would be able to see his joy through the eyes of others.
Yep.
It would get to see the world react to this discovery of Stanley's. And it would be through the public eye that the bucket would finally understand Stanley's work. For months, he advertised and marketed his press conference, building excitement around it, developing and rehearsing it, until it couldn't be refined a single measure further. When the big day arrived, Stanley was as prepared as he'd ever been for anything in his life. This was it. One last chance to win the bucket over. One opportunity to share a true connection with a loved one. There was no one here. Nobody had come to the press conference to hear Stanley speak, to listen to him talk about what it really means to press the number 3 on a keypad over and over. He was unloved, uninteresting, he was a failure.
No.
And in that moment, Stanley knew that the bucket would never again take him seriously. There would be no connection, no deeper understanding.
This is so sad.
The bucket merely sat there in his arms, indifferent. And so it began that slowly, over many years, the two of them grew more and more distant. They spoke less and less, neither wishing to state the obvious, that any sense of real respect between them had eroded since that day at the press conference. There would be no more games, no more long conversations about passion and pursuit, only a silence that consumed the space between friends. And Stanley, having for once in his life discovered the warmth and comfort of true companionship, was cast back into the unremarkable normalcy of loneliness.
It's okay. We're okay. We're not okay. Why does no one like the number 3, man? This is a story about
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. The confusion and the chaos all seemed to melt away as Stanley embraced the bucket. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Oh, we got inside of a sequel exhibit, yeah. A large room, lots of boxes. Somewhere with red and blue, and nearby a fireplace. Define. Maybe we are the collectibles. It may concern, I managed to pick up sounds unusual to our regular office ambiences or local audio sources using an array of cardioid microphones, also known as directional microphone that picks up sound from a particular area. Analysis of the recording allowed me to triangulate the source of the strange noises. Data shows that in all likelihood it's coming from a dark area behind a very warm place. I also picked up what looks to be a reverberance of a porcelain surface. Anyone have any leads? Wouldn't you like to know? So there's one behind a fireplace. Trust completionist. Why didn't they tell us something about the investigation this shown? They feel pointless, to be honest. Please do not leave the office before reporting back with any new findings. Okie dokie.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck.
You know.
Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was
I
the
guess every
bucket
time,
guiding him?
because I can't do it.
Yes,
Just
this is
remember.
certainly the most logical
Where's the
explanation.
Stanley? Because it's behind it. Oh, there it is.
Okay, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines, and now I'm torn between Stanlerines and Figlets.
No,
What do you
Stanleys.
think, Stanley?
Stanleys.
What name better encapsulates the intrinsic sense
Stanlerines.
of that you get from seeing a small number in the corner of your screen go up by 1? Let me sit on it. I'm sure it will come to me.
Stanleys. I like Stanleys. Stanley, see you later then. This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley walked into the
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
Let's escape first, because I don't think...
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death.
Yep.
The door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
Yep.
At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
Yep. This is the story of a man named Stanley.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be. To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket, but what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death?
Of course.
This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere.
No.
Farewell,
That's the
Stanley.
reassurance bucket.
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end as it was crushed
No, the
violently to
bucket.
death. It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold.
Of course, it's the bucket. The bucket's the best bucket. Well, the bucket welcomes you to the grand exhibit. You are standing at the precipice of knowledge. Much like a bucket itself, the human mind is frequently empty within, a cavernous void, but through use of the exhibit in front of you, the mind becomes full and enriched and substantiated. Knowledge of the bucket and its history is the only true knowledge we really have. Will you take what you learn here out with you into the world? Will you accept with an open mind what you may be challenging about the information in this exhibit? Will you change the lives of yourself and your loved ones as a result of this exhibit? Will you turn a blind eye and continue to live as you were in the ignorance and darkness? Where's my bucket?
Can you see how arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the bucket is far more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short
That's not
life?
25 buckets. That's more than 25 buckets. A bucket with two handles. This bucket is depicted as having 2 handles. Such a design has never been created in real life, having been deemed too dangerous and recklessly experimental, and every year dozens are put to death just for attempting it. Okay. What's this? The Inferno bucket. Interesting. A replica of the Inferno bucket, which in the medieval era was so powerfully alluring, that it drove dozens of nations to war with one another for control of it. Billions died, and yet in spite of it all, the simple fact remains: no one can control bucket. Cave drawing. While we know that buckets predate the existence of mankind, we do not know by how long. This cave drawing depicts early man's discovery of practical uses of the bucket, by which time the bucket had already likely been around for several millennia. Notice in these drawings how the bucket is allowing itself to be used, having judged humanity to be worthy of its treasures. Is that music? Or just like someone walking around?
No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket.
Of course. The hanging bucket. This piece symbolises a necessary relationship between buckets and humanity. However clear our grasp of the bucket may be, there is yet more that is always out of reach. This distance inevitably is for our own good. Is that an infinite hole? Oh.
But there is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong.
Oh?
Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements if only we let Stanley die together. The bucket shall take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new world, a new vision.
Whoops. Oopsie doopsie. This is the story of a man named Stanley.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Warmth spread through Stanley's arms. With the bucket in his arms again, he was home. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Of course. So we just need a large room, lots of boxes, storage room, and somewhere both red and blue, so when you just do all the opposites. Got an itchy nose.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
This is the story of a man.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
And down we go. The spooky corridor. The spooky door. This time we're going to the monster.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
That's me, 47. That's my room.
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well?
Probably.
Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do?
Most
What
likely.
kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do?
What
in
does
the
a
first
bucket
place?
want?
These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control. Never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket. But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very
What if
place.
I just turn it on?
And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery... But at the last second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the button to turn on the controls. Stanley gasped in horror. Had this been the bucket's plan all along? To take over the machine and claim the power for itself?
Probably.
How could the bucket have betrayed him like this? Stanley was prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous screen.
Huh?
Birds. Silly, silly birds.
Huh?
The control buttons became active again.
What the fuck?
Stanley flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world. The mind controls were only a facade to disguise its true intentions. Had the bucket known this all along? Stanley marveled at the metal genius in his hands, the one who had pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stanley and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, living through live streams of the silliest birds imaginable.
Is that like a little...
Of all the possible paths his life could have taken, this one was surely the best. And Stanley was happy.
Yeah, I'm very happy with my birds. Hummingbirds. Okay, so the other one's turning it off and then escaping, I suppose.
Already this was uncomfortable, and Stanley decided that as soon as he found a new space he felt safe in, Stanley picked up the bucket and smiled. He'd never be alone again, not truly alone, not with the bucket around.
Oh shit.
Stanley clutched the bucket
So
tightly
there's
to his
one more
chest
ending going
and
this way,
entered
I
the
believe.
door on his left.
This is the story.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck.
Yeah.
Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Yo, we going down in the elevator again. This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
Bucket, 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 bucket.
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock.
Oh no,
Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
This is a story of a man named Stanley.
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket.
Excuse me.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system. Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness. Was it over? Yes, they had done it. Stanley and the bucket had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away. Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate.
Of course.
Stanley wanted to sneeze in every country on Earth.
Yeah, same.
Both of them wanted to begin watching a movie, any movie, but then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the end.
What?
True, it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support, and...
What?
What? Wait. What was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed? An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty, until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave. Even the facility itself recognized the incredible calming presence of the bucket, needed the soothing warmth of the bucket, would go to any lengths not to part with the bucket. No, no, no. Stanley can't leave this place, not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms, not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room, but at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself. As long as I have my bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
Oh dear. The end is never the end, is never the end, is never the end, is never the end. Right, so I believe all the ending.
Even now, Stanley's office was a distant memory. What did it look like? There was a computer, perhaps, and a painting. Was it a painting or a photo? He could no longer recall.
Huh?
No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
What the fuck? Why are the computers like this? Other than that one, what the fuck is going on? They all like it? No. Huh. Odd.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
got distracted by the end is never the end.
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
I am. This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Even now, Stanley's office was a distant memory. What did it look like? There was a computer, perhaps, and a painting. Was it a painting or a photo? He could no longer recall. The good old bucket. Just Stanley and the bucket, off on another thrilling adventure together.
I don't get that bloody input waiting one. Because clearly it's got an ending or something.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chin. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was it? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back, and so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door.
Which we didn't do because we didn't want to. Let's go find our favourite line.
Oh, good, Stanley. I'm glad you found your way here. I knew you'd find this place eventually. You see, your friends and I are concerned for you, Stanley. We've come together here because we care about you very much. It's this bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket isn't even from the original Stanley Parable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stanley. Classic characters from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've never seen before. Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the Adventure Line? We could make the Adventure Line go somewhere new. Yes, yes, that's what the fans want. Let's do it.
Okay.
Whee! Look at that wacky line. Who knows where it'll go off to next? Oh, and it played some silly music as well. Now this is what the Stanley Parable is all about. Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue?
Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Yes, it's as classic now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this. But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something up.
No. No, don't do it. Don't do this to me.
Don't you get it, Stanley? We need to get rid of the bucket. That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character. This is the Bucket Destroyer.
Oh no.
I think it'll make a wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stanley Parable. True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree?
No.
Can you guess what the Bucket Destroyer does? Surely you don't need me to spell it out for you. Go ahead now, Stanley. Say goodbye to the bucket, and then pop it into the machine when you're ready. Now listen to me. It's crucial that you give it the bucket. I don't know what the Bucket Destroyer will do if it can't destroy your bucket. Destroying buckets is all it knows. That is its singular personality trait. Sure, I can hear you saying, how does a character with only one personality trait deserve to join the pantheon of beloved Stanley Parable characters? Well, you see, if you were to really explore the Bucket Destroyer, you would see that its desire to crush buckets is so densely loaded with complexity and nuance that it's really like 10 personality traits. What other object in this game can you even say that about? The Broom Closet? Certainly not. I wonder what sort of Bucket Destroyer merchandise the fans will be clamoring for after this. Okay, the bucket destroyer is getting very upset now. You'll have to hurry and feed it. We can't get back to the classic Stanley Parable characters like the Adventure Line or the bucket destroyer until you crush that damn bucket. Quickly now, the fans are waiting. Do it, the fans, Stanley. Give the fans what they want. Hurry and...
Did it just blow up?
The bucket destroyer. My prized creation. You had so much potential. We were going to do such marvelous things with you, tell such spellbinding stories about you. All of it squandered now.
No, it's not.
Goodbye, new friend. For the moment in time that you were here,
Now come back.
you were magnificent.
No. I disagree. Where's my bucket? Where's my bucket? Bucket.
All of his co-workers were... Wait, no. This isn't the right office, is it? Is this Stanley's office?
Yeah. Yeah. Why?
Where are we going today? The bucket asked. Stanley just smiled. Anywhere they went together would be perfectly fine with him.
Huh.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room. But Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind.
The bucket
was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
So clearly...
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
You're getting close now, Stanley. You've nearly gotten all of the Figler and Marines. Very soon, you'll collect the last one. And then the first number will equal the second number, and that will be it. We'll be different people by then. Different in the sense that we used to have none of them. And now we have them all. You can't go back to when you had no Figler and Marines. None of us can.
If you say so...
Okay, this is day number 295. Tape number... I don't even know. I've lost track.
Huh?
Nothing feels real anymore. The longer I study this bucket, the less sense anything makes.
What do you mean?
Sheer euphoria I feel
Man's getting euphoria when he
every
picks up a
time
bucket.
I pick it up. No matter how many times I've done it, it's always the same feeling.
If you say so.
And the emptiness in my chest when I set it down.
I get that.
Doesn't make sense.
I feel empty.
There's
without a
no
bucket.
explanation for it. I still haven't figured out why I see the world so differently when this bucket is in my arms.
I don't know, man.
Why everything feels so... What do I do with this treasure? I can monetize it.
Yes, become a YouTuber, mate.
It's unthinkable the amounts of money people will pay for even just an hour with the bucket.
Alright.
This is my golden ticket.
I've got
But
a
I have to be
gold
careful,
ticket.
because as soon as this gets out, there's going to be a target on my back. Even now, I don't know who might be trying to get me. What's that? Who's there? Caporata.
What the fuck? Okay, that didn't like break me out. That's all. This
Someone was following Stanley. He was sure of it. If he checked over his shoulder now, he would surely catch them. It was only a matter of time.
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
A good bucket, a strong bucket, a humble bucket, a committed bucket, a bucket of culture and distinction. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room.
Well, it
But
is.
Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong.
Never.
Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room,
No,
said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yeah, good,
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked. No, stop. Look there on the wall, you see? There's a sign right there. It says, no buckets past this point. Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here? Unless... What if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a bucket and what isn't a bucket? I suppose that would explain a lot about your behavior up to this point. Which, if that's true, well, my goodness, I think we have to do something about it. This misunderstanding could have dire consequences on the entire rest of the game if not addressed quickly and properly. So much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket. Please, step in here for a moment.
Okay.
Now then, I'm going to run you through some test scenarios, and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket.
Okay.
Simple enough, right? This should tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what is or is not a bucket.
Not bucket.
Okay, let's begin. Item 1. Is this a bucket?
No.
Correct. It is a hologram of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
Right. Next.
Item 2. Is this a bucket? Correct. It is a 3D printed recreation of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
Bucket is friend. Right.
Item 3. Is this a bucket?
No.
Incorrect. This is a bucket.
Let's do so well.
Item 4. Is this a
Yeah, of
bucket?
course.
What? Are you hallucinating? This is a tractor. It's an enormous machine that tills the earth. I thought this was a gimmick. How on earth did you manage to screw it up? Absolutely incredible. Let's just move on to the next one.
Bucket?
Is this a bucket? Incorrect. This is a bucket.
What the fuck are you on about, Morrigan?
Item 6.
No.
Is this a bucket? Trick question. Both.
What do you
Gotcha.
mean? What do you mean?
Item... Wait, hold on. I can't find the next one. Let me see. Should be around here somewhere.
What's going to be next?
Yes. Thank you. There's nothing here. Of course it isn't a bucket. We both know full well that nothing isn't a bucket. Wait, when I say nothing isn't a bucket, that
Therefore,
makes it sound
everything
like
is a
I'm saying
bucket.
everything is a bucket, which of
God.
course is not true.
Oh my
Unless...
God.
Is that what you think?
No.
Answer me straight, Stanley. Are you trying to tell me that you believe everything is a bucket?
Yes.
You know what? I'm too confused to even sort it out. I've lost all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments ago I could answer these questions with confidence. And yet now I'm somewhat adrift. Do any of us know what a bucket is? Am I
How
a
are your
bucket?
buckets floating around?
Stanley, I can't keep doing this. I'm losing myself, and myself was all I ever had to begin with. I'm afraid the bucket is threatening to tear our relationship apart. I can't have that. I'm sorry.
No, don't
But
take
I'm
my
going to
bucket.
erase all buckets from the
Oh
game
my God, no.
entirely. Okay, here we go.
No. Don't do this to me, man.
What happened? Is everything gone? Why did everything
Everything is a
disappear?
bucket.
Wait, was everything a bucket? Every single thing in the game was a bucket. Oh my God, I had no idea. How could... Except me. I'm not a bucket after all. And you, Stanley, you're still here. You're not a bucket either.
Phew.
Oh, this is wonderful news. We're not buckets. Yes, I actually feel much more at ease right now.
Good.
It's delightful to get some clarity on that issue, but it doesn't change the fact that we haven't got a game. So, tell you what, I'll reset everything and we'll put back all of the buckets,
Yes.
okay?
Yeah.
And we'll know that it's all a bucket.
Okay.
But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that.
Okay.
Who knows what that information might do to a person? All right, here we go.
This is the story of
Even now, Stanley's office was a distant memory. What did it look like? There was a computer back there. The embrace of an old friend. A weathered companionship that stands the test of time. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room. But Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
So the last one to do is
said the bucket.
Cargo lift.
Don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift. Yeah, good,
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
Yep.
In here.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
Now pick up the phone.
This is the sad story of a man named Stanley and his bucket. Once upon a time, I gave Stanley a bucket because I thought he was lonely and could use a friend. And then, very distressingly, he began to believe the bucket could speak to him.
Bucket. Okay, let's go to what bucket.
The Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket was merely meant to provide the comforting glow of companionship. It doesn't
Okay.
literally talk and give you orders. Whatever Stanley is hearing the bucket say to him is just in his head.
Hang on.
Lately, I've been concerned about him. Wouldn't you be concerned as well? To see him delusional like this, obsessing over an inanimate metal object? I want to say something to him, but I don't know how I can convince him. I don't know if he'll listen to me. Well, I'll try anyway. Stanley, can you hear me? Listen to me. It's just a bucket. It can't think, it can't talk. All it will ever truly do for you is effectively transfer a liquid from one location to a different location. That's it. It doesn't do anything else. You see, he's not listening. He's still taking orders from the bucket. You know, once upon a time it was me he took orders from. Me he trusted and listened to. Now all he cares about is his awful bucket. This stupid hunk of metal. It's sad. I suppose he doesn't need me anymore. From now on, he's just going to cling to this bucket, this cold, empty bucket, this sort of shiny bucket. Well, I'll give it this. The bucket does have a nice shine to it.
Yeah, I believe you're wrong.
Yes, I suppose on closer inspection that it doesn't quite look like your average hardware store bucket. It's just a little more, what am I trying to say? Sturdier, more capable of transporting liquid. Like it would be better at moving an amount of water from one room to another.
Live the same day over and over.
Oh my God, what am I saying? Better at carrying water from room to room. It's a bucket. It's literally just a bucket. Why do I feel some need to point out the ways in which it's so much more than just a regular bucket?
Excuse me.
Oh no. I'm having feelings. For the bucket. No, 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 no. What's going on? Why do I want to be with the bucket? Hear what the bucket has to say. Do anything it asks. What's wrong with me? I don't understand. Perhaps if I had the bucket, this would be less confusing. Yes. The bucket could tell me what to do in this troublesome situation. Stanley, give me the bucket. Give it to me. Give me the bucket, Stanley. I need it. Give it to me now. Give it or I'll...
My bucket. My bucket. Break off. Okay. Huh?
The bucket made Stanley want to be a better man, and Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Well, no, never
So
mind.
the only thing is, I
The bucket
believe
was
is
wrong.
to throw myself off
Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
with the bucket, and then I need to go
No,
back
Said the bucket.
with
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else.
The blue door.
The cargo lift.
But Stanley feared that any path he walked might lead to the separation of himself and the bucket, his dearest friend.
Of course.
So he threw himself to his death, that they might die in one another's arms. How deeply touching.
Lovely. So I don't think I need the bucket.
Even now, Stanley's office was a distant memory. What did it look like? There was a computer,
Oh,
perhaps,
bucket.
and a painting. Was it a painting or a photo? He could no longer recall. When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting
Yes, we
room,
know.
and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Because we need to get the next. Well,
And
while
here it
Stanley-
was, the lounge. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Just don't wanna. What are you gonna do?
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Leave me alone. You're such a bully.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really,
are my
I'm
enemy.
not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult,
It is
but the fact
very
is that the story has been about nothing but you. What? Really?
Yeah.
I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others?
Yes.
Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. And there it is. The last Stiggly Wiggly.
Stiggly Wiggly.
Savor this
Who the
moment, Stanley.
fuck
This is a real accomplishment.
Stiggly
This
Wiggly
is doing
was a good
something
idea.
just for the sake of doing it.
No.
Where so many people expect to be rewarded for the most trivial achievements, you've insisted that a job well done is its own reward. I would tell you that I'm proud of you for collecting them all,
Well, you
but
should.
that would be like a reward, and we can't have that. So, instead I'll just say, it's done. We're all done here. And now we can go to whatever the hell you were doing before you hunted for figurines. Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door.
I've not actually been just like...
Oh,
through the
thank
door.
God you are willing to listen to me. Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time? The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. Running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now. Don't you see that it's killing us, Stanley? I wanted to stop. We would both be so much happier if we just stopped. And I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you.
Okay.
What do we want? What are we looking for? Here. Yes. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? If we just stay right here, right in this moment with this place, Stanley, I think I feel happy. I actually feel happy.
It's gonna make me fall asleep. Oh wow, it's so pretty. It's so pretty. Oh wow. Wow, look at all the pretty colours. Like a kaleidoscope. Oh, the red's going up. Oh, and then more dots.
No, wait. Where are you going? Oh no. Stay away from those stairs. If you hurt yourself, if you die, the game will reset. We'll lose all of this.
What the fuck is this?
Please, no, Stanley, let me stay here. Don't take this from me.
Why is he
Please,
sound so
Stanley.
upset?
No!
Ow.
Oh, thank God you lived. No, what are you doing, Stanley? Please, I'm asking you not to take this away from me. I can't go back to what I was before. If you die, we'll both go back. Why are you doing this?
It's funny, isn't it?
Stanley, let's go back to the other room. Can you do that for me?
Fine. So whingy, man. What's that? Oh, that's cute.
Yes, perhaps you can. Perhaps you finally see what I'm talking about. I know you'll see that we can't be happy if we leave this place. You can see that, can't you?
I suppose. What do we do to this place?
No, perhaps not. My God, is this really how much you dislike my game? That you'll throw yourself from this platform over and over to be rid of it?
I mean, if it's your game,
You were
you're gonna put
literally
it
willing to
back, then
kill
it'll be,
yourself to
so-
keep me from being happy.
Yes.
Am I reading the situation correctly? Or maybe you're just getting a kick out of it. I don't know anymore.
Yes,
I
I'm
just
getting
wanted
kicked
us
out
to
of
get
it.
along.
Oh, did you?
But I guess that was too much to ask. It looks like you wanted to make a choice after all. Well, this one is yours.
Don't be so sad, man. It's not the end of the world. Everything will reset. We'll go and see our Stanley.
Is it over?
Yep.
It's going to restart, isn't it?
Yep.
I'm going back.
Yep. So I think that's all the Stanleys. Huh?
Stanley, I'm sorry, but I have to put a pause on things. It's those figurines, those figglers. I haven't stopped thinking about them since you nabbed every last one. Wasn't it just the most intrinsically fulfilling moment of your entire life? Didn't it fill you to the brim with inner richness? Yes, I know we're supposed to be telling a story, but won't you please indulge me with one more trip back to the memory zone?
Okay.
I would love nothing more than to revisit the figurines. Just one more time.
And Stanley found the collectibles. Memory zone. Yes, we've been in here before. First one.
Here's where it all began. The first collectible. Back then, we had no idea of how many of them we'd find. Sure, it said 6 right there on the screen, but how could we know for certain? We were so innocent. We'll never be like that again, Stanley.
7 of 6. What? And the first one onto the stairs yet.
And here was a second Stanlerine. I'll be honest, back then I had no faith in you to find any of them, let alone 6. But you continue to surprise me in all sorts of mundane, unremarkable ways. Okay, let's do a little quiz. Which of these rooms was the room you found your third mini Stan? Can you remember? Hey, that's exactly right. It was here in the boss's bathroom. It was the third one. You picked it up, and then after that, you had 3 of them. I'm glad these moments are so crystal clear in your memory, but I shouldn't be surprised. After all, science tells us that it's impossible to forget your third time doing anything. Let's see, what came next? Oh yes, we found a Figley in this pink room. Oh well, I can't actually say I remember being in this room, but it's here in the memory zone, so it must have happened. This was the 5th mini Stan, and this one was really something special. It was in the warehouse. I remember it so clearly. In fact, because this one is particularly special to me, I made a little video to commemorate the occasion. Enjoy.
By the narrator. What's that man doing? Stanley.
Takes you back, doesn't it? I spent a lot of time making that video, but it was 8 minutes I wouldn't have spent on anything else. And then, Stanley, then we came to the last collectible, the final figurine, right here by the red and blue doors. This memory is the most distinct and clear in my mind, perhaps because it was the one that happened more recently than all the others. Who can truly say how the mind works? All I know is that this is the moment where you picked up a Figley and I thought to myself, yes, that's all of them. They're all collected. It was a moment unlike any other, except for the other moments picking up figurines, which it was exactly like.
Of course.
And then there was no more, because we've caught up to the present moment.
Whoa.
Nothing left to do but move onward into the future. Goodbye, memory zone. No, I'm not done. I'm not ready to move on. Okay. Stop the loading screen. Isn't there some way we can stay here, keep enjoying these figurines? Let's just go backwards. We'll do the memory zone again from the opposite direction. See how that feels.
Alright, mate.
Okay, yes, the room with the red and blue doors.
Yeah,
I
13
remember
Jesus
this.
Christ.
I must say, of all the figurines we looked at in our initial tour of the memory zone, this one is the most distinct and clear in my mind.
Yeah.
Let's keep going. I want more.
Yep, same.
And here's where I made that video. Don't you remember the video we
Yes, I
watched?
remember the video. Oh, man, I don't have like the video.
Yes, I love that video.
I don't. But if you really like it that much, good for you.
Still don't remember the pink room, Stanley. Still no memory of this one. Good room, though. A solid room.
Yeah, pretty solid. Pretty solid.
These really were a treat to hunt down. You know, if there had been any kind of reward for finding all of these, it really would have muted the intrinsic joy of collecting them.
Sure.
I'm very glad we resisted the temptation. Next one.
There's nothing this way. Okay. Maybe so
This was our second Figley. Don't you remember? Yes,
Yep.
I remember it too. The past is truly a wonderful thing. Why does anyone ever choose to leave it? Keep going.
Going, man.
This is it, the very first one we found in the exhibit where I introduced you to the figurines. Oh, I want more memories, Stanley. I want to keep going. What else is there? What came before this?
Jump circle. Do we have any jumps left? Please say we have jumps left.
Look, it's the terrible new content that we were originally sold on. I remember hating it back then. But
Oh,
time does
makes
put a
me feel
rosy
good.
filter on everything. In fact, I dare say I'm actually quite fond of it now.
We collect the
Look how much fun the past is. I want more. More memories.
I'll bet you one day. Yeah, that gives me serotonin.
Oh, yes, the two doors. Who could have forgotten that? A classic memory, this one.
And then our desk.
And before everything else, there was your office.
Of course.
Is there anything else? Was there something that came before your office?
I don't know now.
There's something I feel I can remember. I can remember.
I do remember.
Yes, I'm remembering something now. I remember before this whole story got started. Back then I was different. I used to make big decisions. I was passionate. I was skeptical. I weighed each decision with profound thoughtfulness. And then somewhere along the way, I stopped making decisions. I became lazy. And I came up with a character named Stanley to do my thinking for me. He would make the decisions. He would decide which way to go. I would cheer him on as he collected figurines for no reason. Why did I invent Stanley? Was I lonely?
Probably.
Yes, perhaps that's it. Perhaps I needed to imagine I had companionship. And Stanley really did make for a wonderful companion, even if he was a fiction. But I suppose it's grown old. I want to think for myself again. I want to go back to how it used to be. Yes, I can be on my own again. I can do it. I'll be stronger this time. I'll take care of myself. I don't need Stanley anymore.
No.
Oh, but he truly was so much fun to play with. You know what? Since we're in the memory zone, how about one more good memory? Let's go back just once and give Stanley one more run of the office, and then I'll retire him for good. I did enjoy telling this story so very much. Okay, here we go. This is the story of a man named Stanley. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music. Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Hang on, because I'm trying to figure out how to not die in a certain... So basically, it doesn't matter what you do, you can't not die. That's it. Power. Okay. We're gonna get Stanley out of here.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
An additional 24 endings. Excuse me. What if we do this and then
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing. This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof, the heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machine...
There we go. And then we can get a good ending. And we can go through all the secret ones that I've found on this site.
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy. But Stanley simply couldn't handle the pressure. What if he had to make a decision? What if a crucial outcome fell under his responsibility? He had never been trained for that. No. This couldn't go any way except badly. The thing to do now, Stanley thought to himself, is to wait. Nothing will hurt me. Nothing will break me. In here I can be happy forever. I will be happy. Stanley waited. Hours passed, then days. Had years gone by? He no longer had the ability to tell. But the one thing he knew for sure, beyond any doubt, was that if he waited long enough, the answers would come. Eventually, someday, they would arrive. Soon, very soon now, this will end. He will be spoken to. He will be told what to do. Now it's just a little bit closer. Now it's even closer. Here it comes. Stanley knew the office layout like the back of his hand. It was only a matter of time before he found the others, wherever they were. Just a matter of time.
In this one or the next one? In this one? Let me on the fucking table, chair. I will get on the table eventually. Oh, so it is on this one. Oh.
At first, Stanley assumed he'd broken the map until he heard this narration and realized it was part of the game's design all along. He then praised the game for its insightful and witty commentary into the nature of video game structure and its examination of structural narrative tropes. So, now that you're here, what do you think? Isn't this a fun and unique place to be?
Absolutely.
Why don't we take a minute just to drink it all in? Okay, I'm over it now. What do you think? Are you sick of this gag yet?
Yes. Yes.
Well, I don't know how to say this politely, but you could literally just hit escape and restart the game any old time you want. Like right now. You could have done it just then. Now would also be an appropriate time to quit. Any of these points and so many, many more, all of them are appropriate. I'm enjoying what seems to be an internal conflict going on where you are literally unable to act on your own desires to restart the game. So just to push the envelope, I'm going to try and make this as miserable as possible and see how long you can maintain.
You don't know how long I can maintain this.
There once was a man named Stanley.
Yeah.
Who people considered so manly.
Yep.
But the truth must be told, he was not very old and was quite particularly gangly. What Stanley liked most was buttons.
Yep.
He pushed them like some kind of glutton.
So what?
He did it all day in a meaningful way, but his brain had long ceased to function. Which is why he is in this parable and lives an existence quite terrible. And if you are not strong and keep playing along, you too will become quite unbearable.
This is such a good
You
song.
too will become quite unbearable.
Brilliant. Loved it, man. Go on. I'm completely guitar.
Even now, Stanley's office was a distant memory. What did it look like? There was a computer, perhaps, and a painting. Was it a painting or a photo? He could no longer recall. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Oh,
Okay, I think we all...
what the fuck? I'm confused. All the doors are open. Huh? Yo, what the fuck? You're now leaving. Escape pod. This is 756. 757. 758. 759. And that's fine. 760. Okay. Bit odd. Yep. Pop down bucket. Here we go. You've got this. Oh. My heart. My heart. Oh, my bucket. Okay.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
Look at the whiteboard ended. Okay, is there anything else that we can do?
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. It was okay. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think... But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
I've got replacement bucket. Thank you.
And try not to lose this one too, you dolt.
I didn't. He believes me.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was coming to a staircase. Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation. Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered, but just as Stanley was about to proceed further into the mind control facility, he tripped and fell over the railing and into the dark void below.
Yep.
Thankfully, he fell directly onto the bucket, which safely cushioned his fall. Now, what to do next, Stanley wondered. Stanley and the bucket could find no way out of this enormous pit, and so eventually they decided that the best thing to do would be to simply get comfortable down here. So they set up a little couch and relaxed.
Oh,
It really wasn't so bad down here. A bit cold, perhaps. After some time had gone by, they installed a few shelves as well, and a sort of kitchenette that was useful for when the bucket was craving paninis. But it wasn't until the rugs and the standing lamps came in that it really started to feel like a home. In fact, after some time, Stanley realized that it had been ages since he had even thought of the mind control facility at all.
Nice.
He'd never gotten to fully explore what was up there, never been able to unearth the many mysteries of the mind control facility. This lack of closure began to eat at him. Soon he was dwelling on his regrets, and the state of their home slowly decayed as Stanley became withdrawn and neglected the cleaning. It unsettled the bucket deeply. Stanley wasn't usually like this. The bucket tried to reach out to him again and again, but to no avail. All Stanley could think about, all he could talk about, was going back, doing it over again, staying on the path. It was a mistake to leave the path. It was a mistake. It was a mistake. I need to do what the narrator says. I need to see the true ending. This made no sense at all to the bucket, which was simply trying to live its life down here as comfortably as possible. Yet Stanley was unconsolable. This isn't an ending. This is just a hole in the ground. The bucket sighed. True, it wasn't an ending. But it's where we happen to be. And maybe, possibly, if we accept the reality of things, maybe this will become an ending eventually. It's what the bucket was counting on. The two of them waited for a very long time.
This is a story.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others, so the thought of total solitude was terrifying to him. When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well.
Yeah, no.
Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Perhaps, but he doesn't.
It was okay. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, but this is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself, to put your work aside, to let her back into your life. She's been waiting. That's her, Stanley. You need... Oh, no, you can't... Did you just unplug the phone? No, that wasn't supposed to be a choice. How did you do that?
Magic.
You actually chose incorrectly? I didn't even know that was possible. Let me double check. No, it's definitely here, clear as day. Stanley picks up the phone. He's taken to his apartment where he finds his wife, and the two pledge themselves to one another. Music comes in, fade to white, roll credits. Not picking up the phone is actually somehow an incorrect course of action. How is that even possible? None of these decisions were supposed to mean anything. I don't understand. How on earth are you making meaningful choices? What did you... Wait a second. Did I just see... No, that's not possible. I can't believe it. How had I not noticed it sooner? You're not Stanley. You're a real person. I can't believe I was so mistaken. This is why you've been able to make correct and incorrect choices. And to think I've been letting you run around in this game for so long. If you'd made any more wrong choices, you might have negated it entirely. It's as though you completely ignored even the most basic safety protocol for real-world decision-making. Or did you not grasp the severity of the situation? Well, I won't have that kind of risk on my watch. I'm going to stop the game for a moment so we can educate you properly on safe decision-making in the real world. Please observe this helpful instructional video.
Choice. It's the best part of being a real person. But if used incorrectly, can also be the most dangerous. For example, in this scenario, a hypothetical real person named Rupert has a choice. He could invent a machine that eliminates food shortages across the world to make life better for all people. Or he could spend years of hard work forgetting how to read. Which choice would you make? Remember that unlike here, the real world makes sense, and at no time should you make a choice that does not conform to rational logic. If you find yourself speaking with a person who does not make sense, in all likelihood, that person is not real. Allow the person to finish their thought, then provide an excuse why you cannot continue talking. Turn to a partner and practice saying, "My goodness, is it 4:30? I'm supposed to be having a back, sack, and crack." Excellent. Making choices on a regular basis is the best path to a healthy decision-making process. Most medical professionals recommend making at least 8 choices per day. Do you make more than 8? Less? And finally, if you begin to wonder if your choices are actually meaningful and whether you'll ever make a significant contribution to the world, just remember that in the vast infiniteness of space, your thoughts and problems are materially insignificant, and the feeling should subside. At this time, your instructor will guide you in an exercise to test and reinforce the material covered in this video.
Ah, welcome back. You may have noticed that this room has begun to deteriorate as a result of narrative contradiction. But not to worry. Now that you're properly informed on good decision-making, we're going to revisit a choice you made just a few minutes ago and see what the correct thing to do would have been. This way, please.
Okay.
Now that we know your choices are meaningful, we can't have you jumping off the platform and dying. Imagine the main character dying senselessly halfway through the story. That story would make no sense at all. We just need to get you home as soon as possible before the narrative contradiction gets any worse. Unfortunately, it seems this place is not well equipped to deal with reality. Almost there. You'll take the door on the left, back to the correct ending, the story will have resolution once again, and you'll be home free in the real world. Now remember, all you need to do is behave exactly as Stanley would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. No! Why did you do that? Quickly, hurry back in the other direction. Perhaps we're not too late.
Perhaps we are to the... What is going on in there?
Oh, it's ruined. I can't believe, after everything we talked about, that my story, you've destroyed my work. Why? For what? What did you get out of that? What did you think was so special about seeing the game undone, left here like so much garbage? It's worthless now. And what am I supposed to do? Even if there were a way to continue, would it be worth it? To know that my story is now incorrect? How can I go back to that? I can't erase that knowledge. I'll have to live with it forever. Reliving its impossibility forever. I couldn't live that way. Is it better to shut the game down entirely? To willingly destroy all of my work? I don't know. What's the answer? What do I do? What do I do? What do I... No, I have to. I have to shut the game down. I have to. I have to. with you. You, who thought you were so clever. Now look where we are. My entire game is destroyed.
Oh.
It was the only thing in the world that was mine, and you've run it into the ground. What, did you think that would be funny? You just had to see? Didn't I impress upon you how important it was to be like Stanley?
No.
He actually knows how to do what I tell him to. He understands that if I say to do something, there's a damn good reason for it.
Okay.
That thought hadn't even occurred to you, had it? That there's a world outside of you? You're a child. Oh, my story. If you'd just gone through the door on the left, you would have seen it. There was a whole underground facility. You would have destroyed it and been victorious. It would have been so perfect. I worked so hard on it. I tried so hard to make... behave exactly as Stanley would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
I don't want to. Why should I have to?
No! Why did you do that? Quickly, hurry back. Behave exactly as Stanley would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
I'll go down. Bit rude.
Stepping inside his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, until he saw the door with a voice receiver next to it. Surely behind this door lay all the answers to his questions. And beyond all probability, he knew the passcode. He had seen it on his boss's computer just last week. Night Shark 115. Was this the code to open the door? Would it still work? There was only one way to find out.
Night
Stanley had
Shark
been trained never to speak
115.
up, but now he would draw from within himself the courage to face the unknown. He drew a sharp breath and then spoke the code.
Night Shark 115. Pissing me off.
Stanley spoke the code. Night Shark 115. He spoke it into
Night
his-
Shark 115. Oh no.
I'm sorry, is there a problem? You didn't mishear me, did you?
No.
Please speak the code into the receiver. Otherwise we can't get on with the story. This is a crucial step.
I've never seen this office before, so screw you, man.
Okay, fine, you're not gonna do it, but you know what? It's pretty humiliating to bring you this far, only for you to suddenly decide you have better things to do.
I
I
literally
asked you
can't
for
talk,
this
my
one
G.
single thing, for your respect. The kind of respect Stanley shows for his choices. He knows what it means to take a story seriously. If you didn't want to see what I had to show you, then why did you come here? You had a choice, you know. You could have gone through the door on the right. You could have done whatever the hell you wanted over there. Why did you come this way? Speak. Say something to me. Explain yourself, you coward. You... When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Stanley? Hello? Are you... Is everything okay? Stanley, please. I need you to make a choice. I need you to walk through the door. Are you listening to me? Can you hear me? Is everything all right? Stanley, this is important. The story needs you. It needs you to make a decision. It cannot exist without you. Do you understand me? Whatever choice you make is just fine. They're both correct. You cannot be wrong here. We can work together. I'll accept whatever you do. I simply need you to take that step forward, please. Choose. Do something. Anything. This is more important than
Poor narrator, man.
I need this. The story needs it. So, you hear me? Are you there? Are you listening to this? Stanley, are you there? Okay. It's okay, I can wait. You need time to decide. Time to make sure your choice is correct. That is the best choice. That's all right. I'll wait for you to decide what's the right thing to do. Take as much time as you need.
Damn, bro.
Hi, Stanley. Just wanted to leave you a message to let you know there's a few things I need you to pick up on your way home from work today. We need milk, cereal, dish soap, spaghetti, get a thing of sugar, some bread, and coffee beans, whichever ones you like. I'll give you a call if there's anything I forgot. Thanks, sweetie. See you tonight.
What? The fuck just happened? Right. I'm just double checking that I've got every single one. I mean, technically I haven't got the escape pod because let's actually see if you can get the one specific one that we haven't gotten yet.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
There's not much on either. What the fuck?
Here's the door, just go.
Shit.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Wonder if, because I presume it'll be different on his own.
Aha! You've made it to the bottom of the Mind Control Facility. Welcome! You see, back when the Stanley Parable first launched in 2013, getting to the bottom of the Mind Control Facility was a bug that we simply didn't catch during development.
and you all sent us lots of photos of it on Twitter and acted very superior about it. And you're all very, very clever. Good for you. Anyway, when it came time to update the game, we knew that we had to do something about this little goof of ours, so here you go. New content. You can call it the bottom of the mind control room ending, if that enhances your perception of the value of these updates. Isn't that what you crave? New content? Always more content, more, more. And I'm here to give it to you. I'm here to make it seem like we really covered every nook and cranny of the game with secrets and Easter eggs. How about this? We wrote a new piece of music just for this section. You won't hear it anywhere else in the game. It's a secret that's just for you. That's how special you are. We call this track, Good Job You've Made It to the Bottom of the Mind Control Facility. Well done.
Thank you.
Good job. You did it.
Nice.
Good job. 3, 2, 1. Good job. You made it to the bottom of the mind control facility. You jumped on the catwalk. You should have been careful. You should have been careful. It used to be a bug, but now it's an ending. Now it's an ending. I believe in you. I believe in your ability to cross this barrier and chase your dreams. But railings don't mean anything. Good job, you did it. 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 Good job, you did it.
We did it. Hooray. Hurrah. This is the story of the man named Stanley.
How wonderful. Stanley was alone. Finally. This is great, he thought to himself. This is what I've wanted all along. I got what I wanted.
What, you kill them or something? What the fuck, man? Oh, I fucked up by leaving my office. I don't know if I can open the door. I might have to. There it is. Input received. Welcome, Stanley, to heaven. So got the heaven ending. Well, so
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Not everyone is so lucky to have a bucket, but Stanley is a very lucky fellow. Very lucky indeed. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on it.
Because I need to get the bucket, come back.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. It takes a lot of humility to carry a bucket so magnificent. Stanley clung the bucket to his cheek. Could his co-workers really all be gone? Yes, whispered the bucket into Stanley's ear. We've done it. We've escaped from that dull office and that pesky narrator. At last, out here in the white void, we are alone. Now, and for the first time, I can reveal to you my true self. The bucket began to tell Stanley of its life and its history, of the countless wars it witnessed, desecrating the land and lives of untold numbers of innocent humans, and the bucket's own complicity therein, of sadness and regret, and the many years it spent dwelling on the actions it might have taken to curb the madness and the decay, if only it had been stronger, of hope and redemption, and its crusade to uplift the stock of life for the common man, to manifest justice where none existed, and the bittersweet reality of time, to see one's dreams and wishes met halfway, meted out in parcels like charity, and abandoned as soon as the warm glow of inspiration begins to dim. The opportunities to do so much more. There was so much it could have done, perhaps, the bucket wondered to itself. Perhaps, if it had seen its own darkness with a clearer perception. This was way too much for Stanley.
What are you talking about?
He screamed.
You're a bucket!
To this, the bucket furrowed its brow. No, said the bucket. Not since the evil wizard Gambhorata first ensnared me in his machinations as payback for the sacred amulet I stole from his treasured vaults. I was young back then and could not conceive the ramifications of...
No!
Stanley screamed even louder this time.
This is stupid! You are a bucket! This is so stupid! Why are we even doing this?
As Stanley screamed and screamed and screamed, the bucket revealed its true form, transforming into a mighty beast of untold power, its fangs glistening like... My God, Stanley, you did it. You saved us from the bucket. Thank God you already had all 12 emblems of sages and knew the incantations to summon their true power. Otherwise, we would have easily been overwhelmed by the bucket's power. I'm speechless. You've demonstrated such bravery here today. Come, let's restart the game, and we'll agree to never again go trifling with this bucket, nor the dark magic cast away inside of it.
And there's a bucket not going to be there then.
Stanley cradled the bucket in a gentle embrace. Protected. Stanley clutched the bucket.
Well, I'm going to leave this episode here. So, I hope everyone who joined, I appreciate you coming. I'll see you guys in the next stream.